Good morning. Thank you. That was nice. Can you feel love in here right now? Doesn't it feel great? And those that are joining us on YouTube, we're just going to send you some of that love. Make sure that you feel it too. Welcome to Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church. I am the Reverend Danielle Lindstrom. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And it is a joy. It is a joy to be together again. You are welcome here. Our mission as a church is to be a community of hope, challenging us to transform ourselves, promote love and justice, respect all faiths, and shepherd our planet. As we gather, may we make space for all that we bring each and every time we come together, for this is one of the promises of our faith tradition. All of who you are is welcome in our co-created and shared sacred space. It is good to be together again. We will begin our service with our shared ritual, lighting our chalice. Our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. Our words, a responsive reading by Reverend Naomi King. So when I lift my arms, all are invited to say, "Nurture this precious light." So let's try it. Ready? Nurture this precious light. How shall we begin to live out our free faith? Nurture this precious light. When we do, we become beacons of freedom, creating a safe space to rest, explore, and innovate. We nurture this precious light. How we keep this lamp of truth and justice affects how and whether we are transforming inequity through witness and action. Nurture this precious light. As we nurture this precious light together, we become a light of hope, turning insulation into community, anguish into peace, sorrow into joy. Nurture this precious light. As we do, our faith burns a steady flame of innovation, banishing illusion, creating a new and renewing way to be together. Nurture this precious light. With our living connections, with our glowing stories, with the flame of freedom moving hand to hand, we nurture this precious light. Together. That's right. Together we nurture this precious light. Together we turn this world from bleak to bright. One flame, one fire, one light at a time. May it be so. I invite you now to rise in body or spirit. Find yourself in a comfortable way for singing. We are going to sing "Where You Go, I Will Go, Beloved." The music is in your pew packets. Our words are on our screen.
And now it's time for the message for all ages. So if all the children and those young at heart want to come forward. So many kids this morning. We have families that have... What? To the what water? Oh, not, yeah, go ahead. So many, we have families that we haven't seen for a while showing up. So we have so many kids today. It's fabulous. I missed so many of you. Today, the story that I'm going to read is called The Fox and the Star, and it's by Caroline Bickford Smith. And when you see all the pictures, the great thing about this, the pictures in this, is these are woodcuts, which means that somebody took and carved into wood and then rolled ink on it and then pressed it on the paper to make the pictures. That's what these are. So they're really fabulous pictures. The artist in me just had to tell you that. Once, there was a fox who lived deep in a dense forest. Because Fox was small and the trees reached far higher than the tips of his ears, he was timid and afraid to stay far from his den. And yet, for as long as Fox could remember, he would wake at night to the cool, calm light of Star. Together, they made paths through the trees. Star brightened the shadows ahead. Star was Fox's only friend. Star would light the way for Fox as he foraged for beetles and ran wild in the tangled thorns. Star looked on when Fox chased the rabbits and raced through the thicket. Even when the rain fell, Fox felt fine. He asked Star to shine through the clouds so he could dance to the rain's tapping beat. All of Fox's happiness was bound to the flickering light of Star, and so it had always been. Then, one night, Fox woke, and everything had changed. Fox called out for Star, but Star did not appear. The forest stayed cold and dark and still. In the days that followed, Fox dreamt that Star would return. But the darkness drew closer, and without Star, there was no reason to go outside. Worried and lonely, he huddled in his den. Days and nights passed in silence until something stirred in the forest. The beetles were on the move, creeping and crawling to where Fox lay. Closer and closer, the beetles came, seeking the still body of Fox in the belly of his den. The smell of 1,000 beetles ignited Fox's hunger. He faced the darkness and feasted on the tasty beetles, and he felt much better. It was time to go find Star. Fox peered around the gloom and could just make out a clump of thorns. "Have you seen my Star?" Fox asked the undergrowth, but the thorns did not know of any Star. Next, Fox came across a colony of rabbits. "Have you seen my Star?" he shouted down the burrows, but the rabbits have no time for foxes. Suddenly, Fox was beyond the forest he knew. He looked up at the trees. "Have you seen my Star?" he cried, but the trees were too tall to hear him. Fox found himself in a quiet, empty clearing he had never seen before. He sank to the ground and fell asleep. Fox woke to the sound of falling rain. He wanted to know if the rain had seen Star on its travels, but he did not know how to ask the raindrops. When the rain stopped, he had a feeling that something had changed. Fox called out to the forest, to the trees and the leaves, to the beetles and the rabbits, to the tangle of thorns, the life he had left behind. Where did Star go? He stayed still, listening to the noises of the forest, watching the leaves settle on the ground. Look up beyond your ears. Fox could not believe there were so many stars. His heart was full of happiness. He knew that somewhere out there was a star that was once his. Beneath the blazing sky of stars, Fox made his way through the forest. And that's the end. And now it's time for the children's blessing. Let me get off my mic here before I walk away with it.
There are many ways we give to the life of this church, and our monetary offering is just one of these ways. Each month we partner with a local organization and share the money gathered throughout the month. For November, we are delighted to be partnering with the River Bend Nature Center. And Jean, you're going to come tell us more about it.
Good morning. So first I have to say that is such a beautiful ceremony with those kids. I've never seen that before, and it's just really touching. Then I have to say I know a lot of you. So, and that's a great thing. So a lot of you are going to hear things that you already know. How many of you have not been to Riverbend? Yeah, so okay. No. Our missions are close because our mission is environmental education and outdoor recreation for children, family, and adults. The reason for our mission is that we hope to allow people to form personal relationships with nature, everyone, but especially children, so that as they grow up, they become responsible stewards of nature. I think we all know why that's more important than ever right now. But Riverbend is a small nature center, and like your church, I feel that gives us the advantage in that we can be much more personal than a really large nature center. That being said, we see about 20,000 people a year in our programs, and over 5,000 of those are children coming on school field trips. In 2020, COVID came along, shut us down, and shut the schools down. And many of those children, many of those 5,000 children coming on school field trips, it's their chance to be in a nature center. So now we're shut down. They're unable to come on the field trips. What do? We thought we needed to overcome the safety issue of COVID. We needed to overcome the scheduling because people were going crazy with work schedules, at-home kids schedules, and we needed to overcome financial barriers for those families who couldn't afford to be paying for formal programs, which we also couldn't give. So we came up with the Chickadee Trail. And the Chickadee Trail is an integrated trail. It integrates 3 trails. It's interactive. It's free of charge, so it's no cost to come to the Chickadee Trail at any time. It's open every day of the year from dawn to dusk, so people's schedules, whatever they may be, it accommodated that. And it continued to deliver our environmental education and recreation opportunities for children. The trail has 3 components. It has a story trail, and I might steal this last story next year because that was a beauty. But the story trail, it's about 1/3 of a mile long, and it is not just a page on a stick, although I think that's great, but in our case, because we really strive to make experiences personal and beautiful, we have log kiosks that are kind of more permanent in nature. The story changes every month, so it encourages families to come back at least every month for a fresh story. The natural playscape is the second component of the trail, and it consists of a balanced platform. Then there's a stepping stump trail that leads out into the woods. Kids hop along those stumps, and there's a log teeter-totter, there's a checkerboard, there's a tic-tac-toe board. There are 5 stumps hidden in the woods that have doors. If they discover the stumps and discover the door, they open. There's a interpretive nature object in there that changes seasonally. And we have a new outdoor puppet theater that kids can enjoy. We don't always have the puppets going, but they make their own fun in it. It's a beautiful little theater. And then the third component is an interpretive nature trail. There's specimen trees planted along the way that are identified. There's a tree of the month, and that interpretive display obviously changes every month and describes one native tree and its whole position in the ecosystem, what it supports, what it does in its ecosystem. And then there are 5 or 6 additional kiosks that feature animal, bird, insect, some naturalist display. That changes every month. So, new experience every month, every season. We keep on adding elements and we keep changing them up. It's been a huge success. It was so successful during COVID that we decided it had to be a permanent feature of the Nature Center. And one thing that I really, really enjoy is just last week, since it was November and it was, nearly 70, I was out on the trail and there were families out there, and it was everything from great-grandmothers to mothers to babysitters to kids to toddlers. Just every age was out there and enjoying some facet of that trail. And the interpretive nature trail is set at adult and child level, so there's something for everyone out there. At any rate, we also have other trails with, that are just hiking trails and everything else that we do. But I focused on that trail today because the reason I'm here is, number one, thank you for inviting me. But your support would go to a new interpretive element. And because we do shut the displays down for the months of January and February, just because if we have snow, we anticipated that they would be buried most of the time. So we are moving some of the elements inside. I forgot that one of the things on the story trail was a little lending library. That's a tree. I think we'll move that inside. What has happened is kids, they come more than once a month. And one comment that I got a lot in the last week was, we didn't have enough time. We only got this far because they got so engaged here or there, so they have to be back. So we're going to move some of the elements inside or closer for the winter so that it can keep on going for January and February as well as the other months. The element that your donations would go for would be a bird, egg, and nest display. We're planning on featuring about 20 of the native birds with a display of their eggs, and then a display of some various different types of nests that birds use, and we'd like to get that going for spring. So like February, March, April, we could feature that display. So that is why I'm here today. I'm really honored that you invited me. It's great to be in person with people again, for me. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jean. Thank you for your continued generosity. Our children are downstairs. Perhaps you're hearing the thunder down there. They are practicing for the talent show on November 8th. So hopefully this gets your attention, gets your interest. November 18th would be the talent show. Thank you, Anna. Part of being in community is sharing our lives with one another, sharing our joy and our sorrow. The past few Sundays, we've done a few different things. This week, we will be sharing out loud our joy and sorrow. Every Sunday, you are invited to come in. We have this prayer book is back on Olympia Brown's desk. We have the chalice lit. You're welcome to come in to light a candle. Or share with me, and I can add your joy or sorrow to our prayer throughout the week. I just want to make sure everyone knows we are streaming to YouTube, okay? So anything that is shared publicly. We don't know who all is watching. Hello again. When we put this on our website, we will edit this part out. So with that, the practice here is to share your joy, to share your sorrow. Okay, for us to share our lives with one another. So please don't share for someone else unless you have explicit permission to do so. And I have a few in our prayer book. So we are going to go back to our practice of sung response. So we will start with singing, there is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. I rest in this love. Then we will have the microphones. Hopefully the ushers wouldn't mind helping me with the microphones. Say your name, share your joy or sorrow, and then there'll be a sung response. There is a love holding you. After we do our final sorrow or joy, then we will sing, there is a love holding us. So that's a lot of instruction. I invite you to take a deep breath with me as we enter into this time of sharing our lives, sharing our love, sharing our sorrow, sharing our gratitude, sharing ourselves with one another. I invite you to join in singing, there is a love holding me. that I would like to lift up into this shared prayer space. This one, we lift up the protesters in Iran who are fighting with immense courage against the face of oppression. There is a love holding. We also lift up all of those who are supporting democracy by working and volunteering at the polls on Tuesday. We lift you in gratitude and hope for safety and for rest. There is a love holding. Finally, may we make space for all of the joys, for all of the sorrows that remain on our hearts, the hearts of our beloveds in this space, in our YouTube online space. We lift you in love as well. Let's do There's a Love Holding Us one more time. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding us. Rest in this love. We rest. We rest in this love. Thank you so much, ushers. Thank you, thank you. Our reading. Old Maps No Longer Work by Joyce Rupp. I keep pulling it out. The old map of my inner path. I squint at it closely, trying to see some hidden road that maybe I've missed. But there's nothing there now except some well-traveled paths that have seen my footsteps often, held my laughter, caught my tears. I keep going over the old map, but the roads lead nowhere. A meaningless wilderness where life is dull and futile. Toss away the old map, she says. You must be kidding, I reply. Toss away the old map. You must be kidding. So ends this part of our reading. The other day, it's funny, there's a term for when you find something and then you start seeing it everywhere. Does anybody know the term? Like you're looking up a vacation to Boston and you see Boston everywhere? Okay. Anyway, that's fine. The other day I was helping Matthew. You'll see the connection, I promise. This reading came before the story. The other day I was helping Matthew, my spouse, clean out the back of one of our cars. And I don't think it had been unpacked since we lived in California. Like we just pretended it didn't exist. And while we were going through it, we found a folded map. And it must have been of Nevada. I think we took it as a souvenir from one of the rest areas right on our journey back, on our drive back to the Midwest. We certainly didn't use it. That's what Google Maps is for, right? But immediately I held that map and I was transported back. That kind of time travel that only happens when you touch something specific or when you smell something specific, where all of a sudden the world around you kind of fades away and you're taken right back to that moment or that time. I time traveled back. I was sitting in the front seat with my mother. I was quite young and we were going on a road trip with her for work. She traveled quite a bit at that time, and we were going down the highway, and she said, "Hey, Danielle, get the map out of the glove box and unfold it for me." Okay, I get the glove out, unfold it. I did, handed it to her, and with what can only be described as skillful, though incredibly dangerous, she took the folded map, laid it out over the steering wheel so she could still see. Yeah, we've done this, haven't we? Is this familiar? Yeah, she laid it out, so she's kind of looking. She's like, Oh, okay, there we are. Okay, yep, About 5 more exits. Danielle, remember the number 12. Then I heard Matthew saying, "Oh, there's my baseball glove." And I was immediately brought back to the present, back to cleaning out the trunk of our car. It made me curious finding this map, this memory with my mother, who traveled through Michigan and Illinois and Indiana, I think even into Wisconsin a few times. I asked her, "How did you know when to buy a new map? Certainly things change. Is there an expiration date? How did you know when to buy a new one?" And she kind of laughed. She said, you didn't. You didn't buy a new map. You followed the map for the highway, right? You hoped for the best. You got off at your exit, and you were ready to stop and ask for directions. I wonder, does anyone still have those old maps in their glove box? Yeah, at least half of us. And there's some proudly waving, yes, I do. I keep pulling it out, the old map of my inner path. I squint closely at it, trying to see some hidden road that maybe I've missed. I've done this exercise, and perhaps you have as well, where you draw out the map of your life. Sometimes it's as a river, where you practice seeing where are the curves and the rapids and the waterfalls. Other times it's the highways, the trails, the footpaths. You draw it all out. And I wonder, how often do we look back at the maps of our lives? The map of our inner paths, hoping to discover a new way forward. How often do we do that? Does it work? Does it work? Absolutely. Sometimes. We learn and we gain wisdom through our lived experiences. We understand that sometimes the road takes unexpected turns or it ends altogether, and we have to find a new way forward, sometimes going back from where we came. Organizational psychologist Adam Grant offers that learning is how we evolve, how we make sense of our paths, of our world, of our relationships. Our reading continues. "Toss away the old map," she says. "You must be kidding," I reply. She looks at me with those Sarah eyes and repeats, "Toss it away. It's of no use where you're going." "I have to have a map," I cry, "even if it takes me nowhere. I can't be without direction." "But you are without direction," she says, "so why not let go and be free?" So there I am, tossing away the old map, sadly, fearfully, putting it behind me. Learning is how we grow, how we evolve. But like our reading, Grant continues, learning is how we evolve. Unlearning is how you keep up as the world evolves. Learning is how we evolve. Unlearning is how we keep up as the world evolves. Like a map in the glove box from 1956 before I-94 was built, it might get us where we're going. Maybe someday. Then how do we unlearn? How do we unlearn hard-won wisdom? Right? How do we make this change and learn from one another? How do we know when to stop and ask for directions? How do we invite others to journey with us? Loretta Ross is an activist, and she speaks a lot about calling in culture versus calling out culture. She tells the story of a longtime family friend who's basically an uncle. And they're at some sort of family gathering. Everyone is together, the TV is on, and this uncle just starts on a rant about a specific group of people from the news, just on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Ross explains that her uncle is the type of person who would do anything to help anyone, Anything you needed, he would be there regardless. There was no question that he would be there. Perhaps we know people like this. So she listens to her uncle, lets him finish. When he finishes his rant, she says, "Uncle, I know that you are the type of person who would help anyone." Her words, he would run into a burning building to save someone, no questions asked. So you would do anything to help anyone. How can I reconcile what I know about you to be true with what you just said? How can I reconcile those two? She explains the bigotry doesn't go unchallenged, but rather she responds with what she names as radical empathy. He hasn't been attacked. Now he has options on how he wants to be. Grant offers us this perspective as well, to remember with curiosity and humility that we are always learning. We talk about that a lot, don't we? We are always learning, and encourage us to remember, and I think this is important as Unitarian Universalists, to remember that our ideas are not our identity. Right? Our ideas can be questioned. Who we are can be questioned, and honestly, we come out stronger after such questioning. That can be questioned. That doesn't mean our identities, our core sense of being, is being questioned. And he invites us, as we're hearing in many different spaces, to start listening to one another, rather than to try to convince one another of something in spaces where this is safe to do so, okay? He invites us a few more questions, explaining, quote, when somebody launches an assault on your worldview, ask questions. Is there a time when you didn't believe this way? I haven't heard that before. Tell me more about it. Right? And to take the challenge to long-held beliefs and ideas as a way to learn, to grow, to deepen those ideas. His language, he invites us all to be scientists. He explains, a scientist, you favor humility over pride, curiosity over conviction. You may look for reasons why you might be wrong, not just reasons for why you are right. In our interactions, when we stop and ask for directions, what is our hoped for outcome? To try and prove that we are right all the time, we know that's not true. To prove someone else is wrong, sometimes that might feel good for a moment. Or is the overall goal not to prove, but to improve, as he says, to see and name that it takes curiosity to learn. That is true. It takes curiosity to learn and courage to unlearn. Our reading continues, whatever will I do, wails my security. Trust me, says my midwife soul. No map, no specific directions, no this way ahead or take a left. How will I know where to go? How will I find my way? No map? But then my midwife soul whispers, there was a time before maps where pilgrims traveled by the stars. It is time for the pilgrim in me to travel in the dark. The reading continues, to learn to read the stars that shine in my soul. I will walk deeper into the dark of the night. I will wait for the stars and trust their guidance and let their light be enough for me. So ends the reading. We are lucky in so many ways to live in a part of the world where our environment reminds us of change, death, decay, rest, renewal, abundance. Death, decay, rest, renewal, abundance, again and again and again. We are changing constantly. We, as a congregation, the bigger we, the we gathered here and there and everywhere, we may have some old maps to throw out. There may be some ways of doing things before, the directions we have followed for generations that may no longer be applicable, like following the map from 1956 before I-94 was built. If we are invited to change, to unlearn, again and again, I invite us to then consider, what are our guiding stars? What is at our heart? What is at our core as Olympia Brown? If we take away what has been built around that core, what is it? What is there? What is waiting for us to see it, to connect to it? What has been there all along? As a congregation, we are going to be having this conversation as a Unitarian Universalist. The larger Unitarian Universalist we have had since 1985 a paper map. Right? You can find it in our glove boxes. That's how close we keep it. Any guesses? I hear whispers. All right, I'll tell you. I'll give you more hints, actually. It's in our hymn book. 7 principles, that's right. Our 8 principles, right? Here is what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist. How many of us read the principles before ever coming to church? Couple. Yeah. How many of us list at least 1 or 2 of the principles when someone asks about our church? Yeah, they're very convenient, right? Exit number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Exit number 7, interdependent web of all existence. There's some in between. When you find one that gets your attention, pull off, ask for directions, come to church, we'll talk about it. We are invited into this change as well. All right, we're going to just stay with me here. Ready? The creators of our association's bylaws, don't glaze over, stay with me. The creators of our association's bylaws knew that change was necessary for growth and included an expectation that we review Article 2 every 15 years. Article 2 is our covenant, our 7, our 8 principles, our sources, our statement of freedom of belief. They're all being reviewed, and you can find them, I want to say, the 4th page of the hymn book, if you're curious what they say currently. They're all being reviewed. And the commission has created a draft of what that could look like. And it's not based on principles at all. It's not based on our principles. Covenant remains true. We are a covenantal faith. You cannot take that from us. That's who we are. But rather, they have based this on our core values, our guiding stars. They've created a bit of a graphic that has love at the center. Everything we do comes from love. Around that, the values, justice, generosity, evolution, an explanation, because this one kind of caught my attention. Like, what does that mean? Evolution, we adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Evolution is fundamental to life and to our Unitarian Universalist heritage. Never complete and never perfect. That's how they define that value. Pluralism, which is an important one for this congregation. Pluralism, we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, theology, experience. We covenant to learn from one another and openly explore the depth and breadth of our many wisdoms. We embrace differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. The values continue: equity, interdependence, love, generosity, evolution, pluralism, equity, interdependence. Does that sound like us? Maybe. Rather than listing the 6 sources, we sure did love lists. Rather than listing our 6 sources, they've drafted a new statement for where we pull our Unitarian Universalist wisdom from. Inspired as Unitarian Universalists, we draw upon and are inspired by the full depth and breadth of sacred understandings as experienced by humanity. Grateful for the religious lineages we inherit and the pluralism which enriches our faith, we are called to ever deepen and expand our wisdom. What? I want to go to that church. Beautiful, beautiful. So a bit of business, the commission is asking for feedback. The commission has been put together. They've been studying for 2 years. It is an incredible mix of different people from our faith. Talk to me if you'd like to be part of that conversation. This is a chance to be part of shaping our future as Unitarian Universalists, right? It's an opportunity to remain guided by our values while reimagining who we can become. This vote is happening in June, so you'll probably hear about this going forward, okay? It's an important part of who we are, our covenant, our commitment, our relationship. I remember my mother spreading the map over the steering wheel as we drove, which again, now I find terrifying, but then I didn't know better. Spreading the map. I believe this is where we are going. If we make a wrong turn, no problem, we can stop and ask for directions and try again. May our values help hold us, direct us as the stars in the sky through this season, this time, realistically, this lifetime of change, of curiosity, of possibility, of hope, of becoming, with humility, with that curiosity, with calling in, with accountability. Learning is how we evolve. Unlearning is how we keep up as the world evolves. May I know more today than I knew yesterday. And may we find delight in that discovery. Our reading Old Maps No Longer Work by Joyce Rupp. I keep pulling it out, the old map of my inner path. I squint closely at it, trying to see some hidden road that maybe I've missed, but there's nothing there now except some well-traveled paths. They have seen my footsteps often. They held my laughter, caught my tears. I keep going over the old map, but now the road leads nowhere. A meaningless wilderness where life is dull and futile. Toss away the old map, she says. You must be kidding, I reply. She looks at me with those Sarah eyes and repeats, toss it away, it's no use for where you're going. I have to have a map, I cry, even if it takes me nowhere. I cannot be without direction. But you are without direction, she says, so why not let go, be free? So there I am, tossing away the old map, sadly, fearfully putting it behind me. Whatever will I do, wails my security, trust me, says my midwife soul. No map, no specific directions, no this way ahead or take a left. How will I know where to go? How will I find my way? No map. Then my midwife soul whispers, there was a time before maps where pilgrims traveled by the stars. It is time for the pilgrim in me to travel in the dark, to learn to read the stars that shine in my soul. I will walk deeper into the dark of my night. I will wait for the stars, trust their guidance, and let their light be enough for me. May it be so. Amen and blessed be. I invite you now into some shared quiet. Take this time to pray, to meditate, or to dream. and blessed be. I invite you to stand, to rise in body or spirit. Find yourself in a comfortable position for some singing. We're going to sing hymn 95 in the gray hymn book. It is also up on our screen. There is more love somewhere. Keep on till I find it. There is more love, hope, peace, joy. I find my heart hanging on this like a prayer. There is more, and I'm going to keep on. And I trust and know you're going to keep on. We're going to keep on together. Right? There is more love somewhere. You may be seated. We extinguish our chalice, but not the light of this community. That light cannot be extinguished, for it lives in each of us, reminding us we are connected, held always in a larger love. Our worship is over. Our service begins. Nurture the light that lives in each of us. Go forth with curiosity to learn and courage to unlearn. Take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves and one another in the coming week. Go forth in love. Go forth until we return again.